Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. Aviation Summer Camp being hosted by the Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority. The number of heritage and tourism sites across Trinidad and Tobago to increase. And great reviews pour in on the Soca Warriors CONCACAF Gold Cup performance. Thank you for joining us to our top story. More than 150 children are participating in the Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics, STEM Aviation Summer Camp being hosted by the Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority. The authority is being praised by Minister of Trade and Industry, Senator the Honourable Vasant Bharath, for its role in developing the nation's human resources in the aviation field.
Young minds, eager faces, and the babble of excited voices as these children experience a summer vacation which may serve to change the course of their lives. 159 children have been accepted to partake in an aviation summer camp coordinated by the Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority. The children will be exposed to the many careers which the aviation industry has to offer, including aviation safety, air traffic controlling, flight management, aviation maintenance, and many more. Trade and Industry Minister Senator the Honourable Vasant Bharath says the camp will aid in ensuring the development of the country and the eventual growth of the economy. He explains camps such as these deepen the innovative human resource talent pool in the country.
It forms one of the 7 pillars of our development of our country, which is the interconnected pillars for sustainable development, and that is a more diversified, knowledge-intensive economy. There's no doubt that in today's new, brave world, in today's world driven by the creative economy, innovation and production are inextricably linked. And the ideas, creativity and imagination and talent of our human resource, which of course is predominantly now our young people, it has replaced raw natural power, it has replaced natural resources and industrial activity, and is now the primary catalyst for growth.
Minister Bharath commends the authority for its initiative. He insists the value of the camp to the youth of the nation is immeasurable.
The world has moved away from where physical hard work was the most important thing to where you now need to utilize your knowledge to be able to create value. The high-paying jobs across the world today are not the ones where you are manually doing a lot of work, but where you actually using your brain and your intelligence and your creativity. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity that the Civil Aviation has exposed 159 children to over the next week to give you an indication of what the opportunities are. The Civil Aviation Authority, through this summer camp, is clearly doing its part in the national effort to harness the energy, the imagination, the intelligence and the initiative of our young people in overcoming some of the very real social challenges that we have in Trinidad and Tobago.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
The number of heritage and tourism sites across Trinidad and Tobago will increase as the Ministry of National Diversity and Social Integration embarks on a project to develop and bring awareness to 3 important sites in Cedros.
The Ministry of National Diversity and Social Integration has targeted 3 historical sites in South Trinidad to be turned into official heritage sites. Recently, the Minister of National Diversity and Social Integration, the Honourable Clifton Dikoto, along with his ministry staff, ventured to Cedros, where an official visit was paid to the rest house, Balka Devi Shrine, and a number of bunkers that were used by US troops while they occupied Trinidad during World War II. Minister Dikoto spoke of the plans that were in place to ensure that the proposed heritage sites would receive the recognition they each deserved.
We are going to bring these things up to scratch, try as far as possible to develop it, and send them to tourism, have them for tourism, so that the tourists will be able to come and visit. Right? That is the basic thing.
The project, which is being funded by the Ministry and the National Trust of Trinidad and Tobago, will redound to the benefit of citizens as it encourages them to learn and appreciate their heritage and provides an opportunity to take recreational and educational trips to the venues. According to Minister Dikoto, revenue can also be generated as these areas would be fully developed to include shops and other infrastructure to facilitate tourists. The first stop on the minister's official visit was at the old rest house, which is over 100 years old. The site was necessary when transportation between North Trinidad and South Trinidad took approximately 5 hours, so that the traveling officers, such as doctors, wardens, and other senior persons, would spend approximately 2 days at the rest house before embarking on the long journey back to Port of Spain. Other such rest houses exist at Toco, Manzanilla, and Mayaro, which is evidence that they would be erected at the various outposts throughout the country. A proposal which is currently being explored was presented to the ministry for the state-owned building to be restored and used as a museum. The next historical site, not too far from the rest house, is that of 7 U.S. bunkers. It is located on lands that were leased to the United States in 1941 by the British government that then had colonial rule over the country. The 99-year lease came about when the United States offered the British government 50 used destroyers for the protection of the Caribbean, and in return, the US was able to set up 10 bases across Trinidad as well as in other islands across the Caribbean. With independence in the 1970s, the government of Trinidad and Tobago negotiated with the US government to have the lease terminated and the lands vested in the state, as there was no longer a need for such bases. The last site visited was that of the Hindu Festival Society Balkadevi Shrine, which is located at the mouth of a volcano. The entire volcanic area stretches along the southwest peninsula, where there are an estimated 20 similar volcanoes all along. However, the Hindu community found it necessary to look after the particular volcano and erect a shrine to which they visit once a year and hold a general prayer meeting with the aim of ensuring that the volcano would not erupt. The last time the volcano erupted was approximately 8 years ago, but not in a way that caused tremendous damage or required serious attention. Councillor for Cedros, Fitzroy Beach, spoke of the importance of the exercise and what it meant to the residents.
As years this have been here, nobody seems to really pay any interest in it, so I'm glad that he's paying interest and want to bring this to the forefront. It have a lot of things in history down here. But it will take the whole day if we try to go around to look at it. So I'm glad to see that you come down here and paying interest in this, and I'm glad I know the people at Cedros and environs will be happy.
Staff of the Ministry of National Diversity and Social Integration and the National Trust will pay several follow-up visits to the sites, following which a report will be submitted to Minister Dikoto on the best way forward for the development and use of the sites. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
When we come back, the Ministry of Tertiary Education and Skills Training Jobs Report. Stay with us. The dream of Minister of Tertiary Education and Skills Training for a jobs report is finally becoming a reality. Minister Karim has signed several MOU between his ministry and a number of business interests that would see a jobs report as well as other initiatives come to fruition.
Memoranda of Understanding have been signed between the Ministry of Tertiary Education and Skills Training, the Employers Consultative Association of Trinidad and Tobago, the Trinidad and Tobago Local Content Chamber, and the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association. According to Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tertiary Education and Skills Training, Ms. Angela Sinasui-Gervais, the MOU will facilitate much-needed technical assistance in many crucial aspects of the ministry's operations.
These bodies have enjoyed a long-standing cooperative relationship with each other, and in the spirit of progress, we move to solidify such collaborative associations and take a concrete step towards the achievement of all our goals and objectives. These MOUs commit us to work together more closely and effectively towards our common challenge, which is the closing of the skills gap and the reduction of the graduate glut.
The Permanent Secretary listed some of the outcomes that would have followed Friday's signing, which took place at the ministry's offices.
Together, we will pursue many significant activities, such as the establishment of apprenticeship schools, worker productivity schools, and the co-branding of specific training programs, the launch of relevant dual-modeled apprenticeship programs, the launch of a graduate internship program in order to improve the work readiness of graduates, the production of a jobs report, and the hosting of joint career and job fairs where persons can explore work and academic options.
Minister of Tertiary Education and Skills Training, Senator the Honorable Fazal Karim, noted a major influence that sparked the latest initiative.
I thought it would have been important for us to connect with our major business stakeholder interest organizations. And the reason being simply that if it is that business is saying that there's a shortage of labor, then we must be able to connect with the business interests and to get reliable data that will say what are these shortages. So we need to know, for example, in the energy sector or the manufacturing sector, as Mr. Lockjack would have indicated, or in terms of the services sector, all of these sectors to which reference is being made. What are these shortages? Is it in terms of mining and quarrying? Is it in terms of petroleum and gas? Is it in terms of agriculture? Is it in terms of construction, as Mr. Sivju Singh may have indicated? Is it in terms of tourism, or is it in terms of small business and enterprise development? What are these shortages? It is only when you know what those shortages are can you respond to those shortages. In fact, I have always held to the tenet that education and training must be demand-led as opposed to supply-driven.
The Honourable Minister spoke of the way in which the data gathered from the job market would be disseminated and put to use.
I often say that what we are doing today is moving from the rhetoric to the reality. We are responding with relevance. And just as you have the weather report, which will tell you the forecast over the next couple of days, so too the jobs report must tell you what are the existing vacancies and what will be the projected vacancies in our society. I think once we know that, persons who are seeking employment will be able to know where to apply. They will know what quantity, for example, how many riggers we need, how many electricians we need, how many plumbers we need, and so on. The jobs report will be validated by our major stakeholders in the business sector, who will present the data for us. It will prevent us from having to go to every individual organization. So in a sense, we are benefiting from the economies of scale, where through their membership we'll be able to know what are these vacancies.
The National Training Agency has said that on or by July 31st, the jobs report will be aired on national television and appear in the daily newspaper, as well as on the ministry's electronic billboard in central Trinidad. Minister Karim explained that the jobs report will be released every quarter and data from the various sectors will be released in real time. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
When we come back, the Soca Warriors get great reviews. Great reviews continue to pour in on the Soca Warriors' CONCACAF Gold Cup performance despite a tournament-ending loss to Mexico. One of those high in praise for Coach Hart and his men is former national goalkeeper and ESPN analyst Neil Shaka Hislop. He spoke to Wayne Cunningham in Atlanta following Saturday's match.
News 4 Sports at the CONCACAF Gold Cup. Courtesy the Ministry of Sports and the Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago.
Following the Warriors Gold Cup match versus Mexico, we caught up with former national goalkeeper Neil Shaka Hislop. Shaka, tell us your opinions on the game, firstly.
Oh, I was very impressed. I thought tactically the coach got it right. I thought technically the team performed as well as I've seen a team since 2006, if not even before that. We were a match for the Mexicans, and I know many are going to point out that this wasn't Mexico's strongest team, but I felt it was a decent Mexican outfit and a more impressive Trinidad and Tobago performance.
All right, Trinidad and Tobago was going through a phase since 2006. The football really fell off. I know you was taking a look at that. Give us your opinion from 2006 in between and to now. What do you think? Where you think the football come from?
Well, I mean, the first thing that you have to point out is administratively things have changed, and it's something I've been saying for some time. The tail can't wag the dog. Football can't, or the football players, what happens on the park can't dictate what happens upstairs. It has to be the other way around, and I think between Raymond Timkey and Sheldon Phillips, they've gotten that balance right. They've gotten the approach right, and you're seeing the response from the players. So it's good to see a team is able to compete. Again, though many will point out that it's not the strongest teams that the likes of Mexico or the US or a number of the other countries are able to put out. What was it, a couple of years ago we were crashed out of World Cup qualifying to the hands of Guyana and Bermuda. So to see a team not just match, but I think come away from a Gold Cup quarter-final feeling a little bit hard done by, I think it's been fantastic progress in a very short time.
Tell us, moving forward with Coach Hart, tell us what you think about his short stint with the team.
Well, I've been impressed with the way the team has performed, and as much as Coach Hart will, and rightfully so, be praised for the team's performance and the team's growth over the 4 games, I think you need to look a little further back and so how the team has been coming along and in the final stage of its preparation. And yes, Coach Hart has taken the reins and steered the team admirably through a difficult Gold Cup campaign. But I'm impressed. I mean, I think he was praised a lot highly, and rightfully so, for some of the changes he made between Haiti and the Panama and Honduras game. And then tonight again, with his hand being forced somewhat, the changes he made, I thought worked wonderfully well. Keon Daniel sitting a little bit deeper just in front of the back 4, I thought was an absolute masterstroke. I didn't think it was a position that he could play. Yes, in many respects, he was was one of the standout players on the night. And keep in mind that he was booked cheaply so. It's not easy to play a defensive midfielder carrying a yellow card. Yet he seemed to make it look so easy. And then, I mean, I can't single out Keon Daniel or any other individual really without talking about the back 4/back 5 with Jean-Michel included, and how well they performed. I mean, Jean-Michel, I'm sure, will be praised for a number of the saves he made, but I think the back 4 was as organised as I've seen a Trinidad and Tobago back 4 for some time, both as individuals and as a unit. I thought it was a fantastic performance from them.
All right. Thanks a lot, Shaka. So we see good things ahead for Trinidad and Tobago football.
We certainly hope so.
All right. Thanks a lot. Yeah, man. I'm Wayne Cunningham here with Neil Shaka Hislop following Trinidad and Tobago's 1-0 defeat to Mexico in the CONCACAF Gold Cup.
News for Sports at the CONCACAF Gold Cup. Courtesy the Ministry of Sports and the Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago.
News 4 continues right after the break. Vehicles traveling along the Western Main Road toward the Northwest Peninsula now have the newly opened Carenage National Petroleum Gas Station to stop off and top up their petrol tanks. Energy Minister, the Honourable Kevin Ramnarine, opening the station, described it as a sign of the transformation of the local retail sector.
Members of the motoring public travelling along the Northwest Peninsula of Trinidad and Tobago now have the option of stopping to refuel at the newly opened Carenage gas station. Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarine was on hand for the opening of the station and described it as a bigger sign of what was happening with regards to vending in the local market.
There's been a marked change in NP's stations, particularly new stations. This might be the 3rd station opening since I became Minister of Energy. There was one in Dabadi, the Rupnarine station in Dabadi. Earlier this year, there was a brand new Roxborough station that we opened earlier this year. There's now this station, and there's of course a story behind this station, which I had spoken in Parliament about. The matter was raised as a matter on the adjournment by the Member of Parliament for the area, Dr. Rowley. And later today, there is the opening of the new Charlieville station in Charlieville, which is on the corner of Pierre Road. Yes. Pierre Road and the Southern Main Road. Corner of Pierre Road and the Southern Main Road. And the Honourable Prime Minister will be opening that station this afternoon at 3 p.m. and of course NP will be there. So we're very pleased at the Ministry of Energy to see the transformation taking place in the retail sector.
The Minister noted that the Energy Ministry was making changes to its stations to be more service friendly to its customers.
It's very important that we we acknowledge that there has been a shift in the driving population in Trinidad and Tobago, and what Chairman and I have been discussing is that women in increasing numbers becoming our customers at NP at our service stations, so that these service stations have to cater for that change, and therefore female drivers have to feel comfortable when they drive into NP station. I know the female drivers like to see a clean, well-presented station. And when you look around at the surroundings here today, it's really remarkable.
The gas station is located along the Western Main Road near Hague Street and was first constructed in 2009. However, due to legal issues, the station could not have been opened. Minister Ram Narayan assured the public that matters involving the station were resolved.
This station has had a story behind it, and Chairman, you feel free to interject anytime. This station was completed, as many of you all know, in 2009, and anybody who goes to Chaguaramas would pass here and see the station was closed for the last 4 years. I gave an explanation in Parliament, a very detailed explanation as to what were the reasons for that. It fundamentally emanated from a land dispute, and that has now been resolved with a land dispute between NP and the owners of the land. But I would say that NP under the previous board, and that was chaired by Mr. Lawford Dupree, took a decision to invest and start a project on this site here without proper title search being done. And that is something I think is fundamentally wrong, and something for which the previous board of NP should be held accountable.
He says the station will serve the region well, and is the only station in proximity to the tourism hotspot of Chaguaramas.
This station is the only station on the Northwest Peninsula right now. The closest gas station to this would be the Peak station in Cocorite. So what this does is that it gives persons who are coming here on a weekend to go to the various beaches and so on, or persons who are going to transact business on the outer part of the Northwest Peninsula.
While Minister Ram Narayan was the first to fill up, maxi taxi driver Coffee Harper was the first customer to use the station. He expressed his pleasure in being the first to do so, as he often had to commute to Peak's gas station to fill up. The gas station's first pump sale was recorded at $34.82 after filling up his vehicle with 22.21 litres of diesel. Kimberly Ram Calawan, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you for joining us.